back here working on the John Deere 2150 tractor. As you guys saw in the last video, I got this thing running, I got it driving, and then I noticed I had an issue where the engine was pushing oil into the cooling system up into the radiator. I just popped the head off this thing. Just looking at the deck of the block here, there's no obvious signs where coolant and oil have been mixing. Nothing I can tell that's a definitive yes. I mean, definitely these passages here are some of the closer points where oil and coolant could potentially mix. It's pretty hard also to tell where contamination may have been occurring or where the gasket was actually defective, if the gasket is defective. Nonetheless, I'm going to get that cylinder head sent off and get redecked, make sure it's all within spec, and I can start reassembling this. But for now, I'm going to make sure that none of these liners have cracks. Leaning again back towards the oil cooler as the most likely point of failure, there's a couple different ways I could have tested that to rule out whether the oil cooler was the cause of contamination or not. The oil cooler is like $200, so I'm just going to replace the oil cooler, and I already have the head off. I sent it in to the machine shop. It got pressure checked. It passed. So without further ado, I'm going to start putting this thing back together, get the mating surface all cleaned up on the block, and we'll start at it. So you guys can see here, I got the mating surface of the cylinder block cleaned up fairly well. I just used this 3M wheel here, and this is like a plastic wheel, and it just knocks off any of the gasket material. And you do have to be careful with this because I didn't want to take off any of the actual metal and cause this thing to go back together with any warpage. You can see this isn't perfect because, you know, there's some carbon here, not here, but I don't really want to spend a lot of time running that on this surface, causing excessive heat and friction and basically grinding with it. That's not my goal here. My goal was to just knock off any residual gasket material, which a lot of it was over here, which is why this side looks a little ground down more than this, or a little shinier, I guess you would say. But I'm not going to go crazy with it. I got everything cleaned up. I was able to use this little vacuum to try and get all the thread holes cleaned up as best as possible. Over here on the cylinder head, that's how it looks after getting back from the machine shop. They got it all resurfaced there. They just resurfaced it, pressure tested it. I got my new gasket here. I got all new head bolts. These are the new style head bolts that are flanged versus the original style, which used a lock washer. So John Deere actually superseded those with this style, and of course from Deere these were about $10 a piece, give or take, and from the aftermarket they were about half that, so I just went with aftermarket. So I'm gonna get that gasket on there, set the head in place, and start getting these bolts in and torqued up. We try and try for months at a time to make it better, to make it right, but all that's left. So I got my torque wrench out here, and I'm going to be tightening down the cylinder head bolts. And according to the manual, this is done in 4 stages. So first I'm going to torque them all to 75 foot-pounds. Then after that, I'm going to re-torque them in the same pattern at 110 foot-pounds. I'm going to then wait 5 minutes, re-torque to 110 foot-pounds, and then from there I'm gonna turn an additional 50 to 70 degrees, and that'll be the final torque for this head. And that applies to these flanged head cap screws, is what they refer to them as. Late at night when no one can hear you, do you say my name? Does it still feel the way it used 2 months ago? I had you here, I had you close, thought you were mine. I wasn't letting go until you went and did the most. the rocker assembly clamps clamped back down to 35 foot-pounds, and I'm using the unconventional method here of just sticking a screwdriver down the injector hole. It just barely touches the piston. I rotate the engine off of the drive belt there, and as you can see, I have the number 1 cylinder at top dead center right now. We're going to need to do a valve adjustment here, and with number 1 cylinder at TDC, here is our valve clearance spec. Okay, so I got my valve clearance adjusted on each cylinder here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the new rocker cover gasket, install it, and then put the rocker cover back on.
Tried too hard, came too far just to be accused. Feeling dumb, because I had not a damn clue. And my mama rang me just today, just to say, and finally she approved. You build me up, I tear it down. You wanna love, I wanna take grounds. Sing love ain't meant for two. And now I realize this ain't the life to live. Now I have to live seeing you with him. I gotta bend so I don't break.
So you guys will see here, I'm actually not going to reinstall the thermostat. And the reason being, if you can see, there's still a lot of this milky residue from when the coolant and oil was mixing inside of the cooling system. So what I'm going to do is run this thing with no thermostat, and then I'll flush the cooling system a bunch of times. So that's why there's no thermostat installed. Of course, I did purchase a brand new thermostat. I bought it OEM from John Deere, and it cost me about $10. So again, some John Deere parts are expensive and others are not. So it's definitely worth price checking when you're doing repairs on these things. Most of the time people just automatically assume that the OEM part is going to be ridiculously expensive. Filters are a great example of that, because a lot of times OEM filters actually are the same price as aftermarket brands. So I got the coolant pipe hooked back up. I gotta tighten all my hose clamps yet. So in effort to try and not ruin these new injectors that I just installed, I'm just gonna let the fuel line spit fuel out onto the engine for a little bit, and then I will connect the injector lines to the injectors. I don't want to force any debris that may have fallen in there into the brand new injectors. So that is kind of the method to my madness here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get everything tightened up. I still have to hook the intake back up, but for the most part, we're almost there. Just a little bit more. So I have all the fuel lines off. I'm going to go ahead and just start turning over the engine to try and get some fuel into those fuel lines. That way I'm not spraying anything directly into the injectors. So you can see I'm definitely getting fuel on all three. So that's what I was hoping for. So I have all these injector nuts loose. I'm just gonna turn it over and hopefully prime these things up. Well, it looks like they're all spraying pretty good. I also tightened the return line, which I noticed was loose. So we definitely have fuel here, fuel here, fuel here. Good. So I'm going to get everything torqued up. And by torqued up, I just mean snugged up with the wrench here. Okay, everything's all tightened up, snugged up. Before I even bother running this thing, I am just going to go ahead and wait until tomorrow. I get my new oil cooler in. I will get that installed, and then I will run this engine. I feel like there's no point of doing all this if the oil cooler was the cause. So I'm going to go ahead and swap that out. But at least for today, everything's buttoned up, looking pretty good. I'm going to go over every nut and bolt, make sure I didn't miss anything.
This is that punched holes in a broken soul serenade. And all my demons I thought I laid to rest are at play in a bed that we made. Just needed something to blunt the pain. If I had any sense, I'd sober up quick and prepare my heart for what you were gonna do. You build me up, I tear it down.
Now, of course, I'm not going to do all the work on this tractor and leave this crappy old seat. Luckily for me, seats are pretty inexpensive for this thing, so let's ditch this one. Now this is an improvement. This thing only cost me $90. I'd say it's a bargain for a suspension seat, and the quality appears to be pretty good. I mean, it's a little flimsy on the base, but that's okay. For the price we paid, I'm not going to complain. And the install went really pretty simple. So I didn't even bother showing it. It's basically 2 bolts, and then I just set the height where I wanted it. I got it right in the middle position, and it seems to be really comfortable and has a lot of movement. So right now I got the garden hose hooked up to the top of the radiator, and I'm just flushing it out. I have the drain petcock is open here on the engine. You can see that's pretty nasty, so I'm gonna keep hammering at this with the hose. I have a feeling we might need a cleaning solution to get some of that out, because that's pretty bad. Yeah, that's the petcock all the way open there. Clearly that's clogged, so we'll keep at this. Starting to get some good flow out of here. I kind of pressurized the system just by shoving the hose down in there and filling it up. So I'll pressurize it, close it off, and we'll run this thing. So this will be the first real start since I, not really rebuilt it, but since I had the head off and changed the injectors and a couple other components, as you guys saw. I did prime the system pretty darn good, crank this thing over, and I think it should fire up right away. But again, there's no thermostat in it, so I'm just going to try and work some water through the cooling system. There she goes. Not too bad. I'm going to keep an eye on it and let it run. Alright, so this thing's been running quite a while now, maybe 10-15 minutes. Enough to at least get this little engine kind of warmed up. You saw there, I filled it with Dawn dish soap, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the lower hose, drain it out, and do it all over again. Try and get all of this grease and oil out of the cooling system. I've now had the 2150 running around the yard quite a bit here. And in the radiator, as you can see, that looks very much just like water. So I'm pretty satisfied with the level of repair here. I'm gonna call that fixed. I'm gonna go ahead and get all the water drained out. I do still have to install the thermostat, so I'm gonna do that quick. And then start filling the system up with coolant. You can see in the thermostat housing here, the system looks pretty clean. No oil residue in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick the new thermostat in place. And then the new gasket. Then I can put the housing back on and get this all bolted back in. I got a beautiful 900-degree day out here today, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and work on the 2150 rock shaft seals. And these things were leaking profusely, and the tractor would not hold any hydraulic oil in the rear end. I'm going to try and pop these off. I've never done these before, so I'm just kind of guessing at it, but that's how I do most things. Start by taking these links and dropping them down.
Thought you were mine, I wasn't letting go until you went and did the most late at night when no one can hear you.
Oh, look at that. No oil left. No surprise.
You were mine, I wasn't letting go until you went and did the most.
So if you look in there, there's actually no sign of an O-ring. And that's because the O-ring that was in there is just so worn down that it's basically missing. So I could probably just put new O-rings in there and call it a day, but that's not what we're going for here. So getting these O-rings installed into the bushings, well, luckily, since today's about 900 degrees, it's pretty easy. These are super pliable. These are the new style quad O-rings, John Deere calls them. Apparently they've superseded the older design where it was just an actual rubber O-ring. So this is a different style. And so far so good. This one just popped right in. So I'm going to do the same thing over to this one. And then I'm going to put these assemblies in the freezer. And the case, the trans case, is sitting out here baking. So once I get the old ones out, these new ones should just slide in relatively easy. Fingers crossed. So here's my tool setup. I got this little cheap Harbor Freight puller. I got a pipe wrench holding the jaws of the puller because they just wanted to split open. So this keeps the pressure on and I can hold it pretty easily back here. And I'm just taking my 3/4 wrench, tightening this nut. And of course I don't have a lot of clearance here, so I'm gonna have to readjust this again, but it is working. The bearing, or the bushing I should say, is pulling out of its home. So I'm gonna keep tightening on that, and eventually it'll work its way out. Now to reinstall these, the bearings are, or the bushings are fresh out of the freezer. I've had them in there for a couple hours. You can see they're frosty. And installation should be pretty easy. I'm just going to take my driver and tap it in. I tap it lightly when I start to make sure that it's going in straight. Now that I can verify it's in straight, so you can hear right there, it just bottomed out. Easy enough, that really wasn't too bad. I just got to get the shaft reinstalled. I'm going to deburr it and slide it back in. So I got this shaft all filed down. Realistically, I should probably replace this, but I didn't have the foresight to order a new one. So I guess I'm going to have to do that later on down the line, which that's okay. It'll give me a chance to flush the fluid again. In the meantime, I'm going to reinstall this. I'm just going to take a little bit of grease and put it on this shaft. So now I'm pressing out these old bushings and then replacing with this new bushing. There's a difference. This is a split bushing and this is a solid bushing. I'm not sure why this one was installed, but this is the brand new OEM John Deere one. So I'm just gonna pop this out. So I got everything greased up, and as you can see, the grease kind of holds this bushing in. Okay, now I just got to fill this thing up. I'm using the cheap fluid again, just in case it does leak out. There's only one way to find out. The next thing on my list here, now that I know this is my driving tractor, or at least for now, since this one's in better shape, I'm going to go ahead and swap these wheels and tires over to this one. This one's in pretty good shape. This one does leak, and on the other side the rim is rotted out. But both the wheels and tires on this one, not only are the tires bigger, but the wheels are in slightly better shape. So I'm just going to swap them over here. Luckily I got my big 3/4 breaker bar. So on the rear end of the 2150, you can see there's no remote auxiliary hydraulics. However, there's a hydraulic top link as well as a hydraulic link for the 3-point. My goal is to open up these hydraulic ports, run hoses down to Pioneer couplers, and then be able to use this handle and this control valve as an auxiliary hydraulic controller. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect these hydraulic lines and see how I can retrofit up some little hoses to a Pioneer coupler setup. I'm gonna remove this hydraulic lift arm. I am deciding to retain the hydraulic top link. This is just nice because it has a float function that I'll be able to use. So for that, I got custom lines made. Typically, I don't get custom lines because they're expensive. So this is kind of my setup here. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of room to work with here. Very tight. On this outer control, I am going to be running the auxiliary hydraulics, which are going to come out somewhere around here, and I'll have to make a bracket to hold those. And then on the inner control lever, that is going to run the adjustable top link. And then of course I still have the 3-point draft link arm. So 3 different hydraulic controls on this thing. Well, I got everything snugged up here, and I just topped off the system with some hydraulic fluid. So now I suppose we better start this thing up and see if it leaks there. This will also be the first time starting since I've put coolant in, so hopefully the system will burp out a little bit, but I'm gonna fire it up. See, I haven't ran this thing in a couple days. I still haven't fixed the electrical issues, so we're gonna be starting it with the screwdriver. But, you know, that's all right. Give this thing a little throttle. Make sure it's in neutral. Don't wanna end up like I did in the Massey Ferguson video. Okay, we are in neutral. And hopefully it's still got battery. Well, that's a shame. Seems like the battery's dead. I guess I could have expected that. It's been sitting here for quite some time. Well, I better get that on the charge. Next day, I got the battery charged up. This thing fired right up. And now, let's test out our hydraulics. Looks like it works. I think I'm gonna call that a win for now. Well, as always, a project is never finished, but at least now this is a working tractor. There's still a lot of things I want to address on it, such as the electrical issues. It needs to be rewired, or it needs to have some wiring fixed. The light bar is completely missing. I need to get a new one of those. And there's a lot of little things I want to clean up, wiring in the back end, and it seems like the PTO doesn't want to engage on this tractor, so that's going to have to get looked at. Other than those things, I've actually been using this tractor, and it's worked pretty darn well. I'll throw in a couple clips of that, but you'll definitely see a lot of this tractor in the future on this channel. And of course, you'll see when I go into this thing a little bit more in depth, and I'd really like to paint this thing up one day. So I'm hoping to be able to include another part on this tractor that's really like a finalization. But for now, I need a tractor that works, and this is that tractor. So I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot more odds and ends maybe, but I'm going to use this tractor as it is. It's not the prettiest, but it seems to work pretty darn well. And that's all I'm really after on this thing. So get it in the field and try this thing out, put some hours on it. And of course, we can't forget about the old parts tractor, locked up 2150, which I will have you guys know, as of this day, it is not locked up. Granted, it doesn't run right, but it's not locked up. So there's going to be more to come on that, and I actually think I'm going to keep this thing. I wasn't planning on it, but I don't have a lot into it, and I really like the other one. So I think we might hang on to this and put a little more time and money into it. I definitely have some videos of getting this thing unlocked that are pretty interesting. Granted, they're not the right way to do it, but I do plan on keeping this thing and fixing it the correct way. So more to come on this unit as well.